Monday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good weekend. We'll talk about the Browns and what is a mess of the 2024 NFL season in just a minute. Guardians getting ready for Game 2 of their ALDS series, best of 5 against the Tigers. Postseason couldn't have started much better for the Guardians. First inning in Game 1, first 5 batters all reached base, all scored on their way to a 7-0 win for the Guardians in Game 1. So they take a 1-0 lead in the best of 5. Game 2 will be coming up here in a little bit. Stephen Vogt talked about the start for the Guardians, and the Tigers' A.J. Hinch was asked if his team kind of felt like they had their backs to the wall in Game 2.
For us to come out swinging like that and putting pressure on the other team, and obviously for Lane, we've loved having Lane since the first day he got here, and for him to get the big hit there, that was a big moment.
Well, first off, I challenge the premise that your back's against the wall. I mean, this isn't an elimination game. We want to win every game, but we don't even come to the ballpark today with that sort of mindset. I mean, that's a defeatist mind. I'm saying you are. I'm just saying in general. I'm not going to have a team that ever panics. So we're gonna show up to prepare, and pretty upbeat clubhouse. We're gonna have an upbeat workout. We're gonna be prepared to play important games just like we all expected. And you know, we don't get caught up in recency stuff. I mean, I understand, like, you know, yesterday didn't go our way, and we had a number of strikeouts, and we had a hard time scoring. We didn't score. We're not too far removed from the most electric inning offensively to even get us to this point. So, you know, we finished yesterday, we reset, we come to today for a clean workout, we get to tomorrow, but we don't have a lot of pressure that we're going to bestow on ourselves. We know the situation creates enough of its own, and our mindset is to focus entirely on how to combat Cleveland, and how long is Matt Boyd going to be in the game, and how do we answer this bullpen that we know is famous around the league. That's enough for us to worry about, let alone some self-induced back against the wall mentality that doesn't exist.
So Game 2 starting pitcher will be Matt Boyd, a guy that the Guardians signed in June as a free agent, rehabbing from Tommy John surgery a year ago, going for the Guardians. Boyd pitched parts of 8 seasons in the big leagues with the team he'll face, the Detroit Tigers. For 8 of those seasons, also had a year there with Toronto at the beginning of his career, one with the Mariners. But he was kind of the veteran leadership guy on the Tigers staff that had some of the pitchers that are now the core of the Tigers big league staff. Boyd has had a big impact, especially on Tigers Game 2 starter, Tariq Skubal, who is a leader for the AL Cy Young Award.
I struggled pretty heavily, you know, in 20 and a lot of early 21 too, and I had a lot of discussions with him, just like, you know, mentally, how do you take, you know, you're worried about going up and down, like, how do I just focus on my job? And he had a lot of advice and a lot of good stuff for me throughout all that. So, you know, I think that speaks to the guy he is. You know, I think he's the nicest guy in the world. I told him, I'm like, dude, you should act a little more mad sometimes, you know, but he's so nice all the time. But yeah, he means a lot to me. He means a lot to me. It'll be fun.
Man, you're going to make me say positive things about Matt Boyd before Game 2. You know, I mean, everything that has been said about him, you know, really can only be positive. I mean, this guy was an anchor on a team that was trying to find its identity. Certainly on the pitching side, he was asked to be a huge leader as young pitchers were broken in, as the transition of learning how to be a big leaguer to learning how to win. He was instrumental in pouring some of this foundation. And to a man, everybody loves Matt Boyd. You know, he was the opening day starter. I got the chance to have a meeting with him and name him that. I also had him take a leadership role on these first teams that I had that have the names now we know, Tarek and Casey and others that you know, as a veteran stability piece to a team that desperately needed it. So, you know, baseball is incredible. It leads, like I've said this last series, it leads you to sometimes familiar places, and this one's leading us to a familiar face in a really big game against somebody who, you know, we all respect and admire. we'll turn that off for a couple hours, as we get to the competition. But I'm proud to know Matt Boyd and proud to have crossed paths with him in our careers.
So it's Matt Boyd against Tariq Skubal for the Tigers. Skubal has been outstanding. Take a look at the Guardians' numbers against Skubal. These are career numbers for some of the Guardians players against him. Jose Ramirez, no shock. He's hitting .429, 3 doubles, a triple. Nobody from the Guardians has hit a home run against Skubal. Skubal did make one start against Guardians this season. 7 innings pitched, gave up just 1 earned run. 10 hits, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. He did get the win. Tyler Freeman, 3-3, was 3 for 3 in that game. Freeman on the injured list now. They kind of swapped him out with Angel Martinez earlier today. Hedges had 2 hits. Fry had 2 hits. Ramirez had 2 hits and an RBI. Skubal talked about Guardians lineup in that first outing back in July.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good team, good lineup. They can, flip, mix and match, lefties, righties, no matter who's on the mound. So they put the ball in play a ton. They're competitive at bats. They grind out at bats across the way. I was a big fan of how they play the game, pitching, defense, bullpen, timely hitting. They play good baseball. So it should be a fun series because we're doing the same thing right now. And, I look forward to the challenge. Yeah, I mean, that was a grind of an outing, when the bases are constantly, filled with base runners, and innings can kind of unravel a little bit. But I think with any team, you just got to continue to make pitches, and I felt like I did a good job of that against them last time. And that's when I'm at my best, when I'm executing pitches and just constantly getting ahead of guys and making guys uncomfortable. Whether that's 10 hits, I don't know how many of them were singles or hard hit or any of that. But yeah, I mean that's baseball. It's what a team like this can do too.
And that's going to be one of the keys. The Guardians want to run the pitch count up. You're not going to get a lot of hits off of Skubal, although they got 10. You're not going to have a lot of opportunities. You're going to have to score, keep the game close, and try to win it late. Matt Boyd, he's been really good for the Guardians without question. Has made 8 starts, a 2-2 record, 2.72 ERA, 46 strikeouts in 39 2/3 innings, only 13 walks. And he's been even better at home. 1-1 record with a 2.25 at Progressive Field. Remember, Boyd coming off Tommy John and really has been a lift. Was one of the guys that the Guardians considered to be like a deadline acquisition because was working his way back from Tommy John and unable to pitch until late in July. Boyd was asked about his approach to this postseason start.
My job is to get outs. All right. Voter is, the one that's in charge of kind of pulling the right levers, and my job's to get outs as long as I'm out there. So I think more than ever, it's like he just the game is the same. You go pitch, and I mean, get as many outs as you can while it's asked, and then let the manager, let Voter pull back on the reins when it's time to flip it to somebody else, sort of thing. Mentality shouldn't change. Outs are outs, and you just go get them as long as you're told to.
So he told you Boyd kind of joined the Guardians midway through the year. 9 years he's been in the big league, so he's been around. He was asked what he's noticed that makes this year's Guardians team special.
The cohesiveness, and it's not only the cohesiveness, how close the guys are in this clubhouse, how close we are as a group. They made me feel welcome within days of being here. I almost had to check myself, wait, this kind of real? I'm my first week here. I got to watch my P's and Q's a little more, but just so many good people in this clubhouse, right? And I think that it brings out the best in everybody when we're all friends. In baseball, you got to be around your teammates and coaches more than you are, your family, for better parts of 7 months plus. So, gosh, with that, it's, I think when you like being around each other, it makes things, a lot of fun at the field. So, I think that's one separator with this group.
Matthew Boyd, Game 2 starter. So let's take a look at the Guardians lineup for Game 2. A little bit different. You got Quan and Fry batting in front of Jose Ramirez. Lane Thomas will move up to the cleanup spot. He has provided a lot of power in September and had the home run in game one. Naylor will hit behind him. Then Noel, Jimenez, Hedges will be catching. Remember, he did have 2 hits in that game against Scooble in the regular season, and Rocchio playing short, batting 9th. Key is going to be, as it was in game one, you want Quan and Fry to get on base so that you can't pitch around Jose Ramirez. You don't want Scooble to be nibbling and able to try to get Jose to chase sliders at the back foot and those kind of things. And then guys hitting behind Ramirez, Thomas, Naylor, and Noel. When guys are on base, you got to drive them in. If the Guardians can keep it within a run or have a lead and they get Scooble out, you take a 2-0 lead and you got to feel pretty good about it. Here's the Tigers starting lineup. Young guy, Justin Henry Malloy is DH and leading off. Then you got Verling. Andy Ibanez had a big hit, new guy into the lineup. Green, Perez, and Torkelson are kind of the guys that make that go. Perez has a little bit of speed. Meadows was hitting well, struggled in game one, and then you got Rogers and Sweeney, young shortstop. Scooble, as I mentioned, a dominant number 1 and the favorite in all likelihood to win the AL Cy Young this year. So Guardians a 1-0 lead. If they can get a second one as they head to Detroit, Guardians are in pretty good shape of advancing to the ALCS if they can kind of string it out. Again, make Scooble throw a lot of pitches. Guys in the top 2 spots get on base. Let Jose get some pitches to hit. Guys behind Jose protect them. There's the recipe for it. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will dive into Browns Commanders. Lance Reisland from cleveland.com straight ahead. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each. 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Cleveland Browns, and it's been a struggle. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Everything that we were promised, we were not given, and it's been 5 weeks now. I know everybody's saying fire Kevin, and my honest opinion, I don't think that we should fire Stefanski. I do think that we should fire Ken. You know, I understand that we brought him in to fix the passing game, but I think there's more issues at hand. This offense is just inept. It's worse than, I think, it kind of feels like the Freddie Kitchens offense, where it just wasn't good. You know, it wasn't creative. It was just, blah, like nothing.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, again, it's 5 weeks, and sometimes it's been a little better. Sometimes it's been a little worse. It hasn't ever been anything better than kind of mediocre, though.
Well, I will say this, it's fun as an offense. Well, as a team, they're struggling as a team. And the first thing, the first initial knee-jerk response is to blame the quarterback, blame the coordinator. And they have a lot to it because, they get a lot of the credit when things are going well. I will say the easiest way to fix things, the easiest way out is to fire people and start over. But remember, when you start over, you have to start over. And that means there's going to be a learning curve. And sometimes you got to fight through it. Now, I will say this. The Browns running game has really struggled. And Kevin Stefanski has gone away from his counter game and pulling those guards and gap schemes that has really made him successful over the years. So, in my opinion, I think obviously you can take input from whoever you want, but ultimately this is Kevin's job. And I think they need to get back to the run game, get back to some physicality, and get back to an identity. They don't have an identity on offense right now, and it really shows. They are really struggling. Watson's one of the struggles, but he's not the biggest one, in my opinion.
So Kevin Stefanski today, and after the game as well, but again, asked if he was considering giving up play calling duties.
I think there's a bunch of different things, Mary Kay, that we want to look at and see how we're doing from a operations standpoint on offense. I think Ken's been an outstanding partner in all of this. So those are the type of things that I will always look at. But really, it just gets back to making sure that we're putting our guys in position is what we'll look at ultimately.
You're an offensive coach, so I think you're probably going to lean away from that. If you don't change something, how are things going to improve? And I'm not a guy that was like, Stefanski shouldn't call plays. Would it simplify it if it was Ken Dorsey calling the plays?
Well, it's funny you said that. You have. You've always been pretty honest. And you and I have backed Watson and backed Stefanski on just about everything they do because they've had a lot of success. I will say this, change again. If you're having change now, you're the whole operation change and what you do on first and second down. So there's a lot more to it. I would say if I would like to see a change, I'd like to see Kevin go back to what he does. And that gap scheme, these guys have run the gap scheme so they can get back to that a little bit. And they don't have to go back to it completely. But they have got to create a running game, whatever it may be. And right now, Dorsey's zone running game is not working. So I would like to see them go back. I'd like to see Kevin call plays. That's why he's the head coach. Some guys are head coaches because they're great CEOs. Kevin's a great play caller. Kevin's a great play designer. They're struggling right now. And track record said he's going to fix it. I would say stick with him as a play caller and go back to what you do, because as a play caller, you know how to fix what you run. And that's all you know how to fix. So that would be my suggestion. Go back to what you do.
Can they do that? Is it a easy, a lot of the offensive line is the same. Can Andy Dickerson help them with that?
Well, you think about the pin and pull scheme, right? So you got pin and pull, you got the counter, you got power, you got all these. And the basic thing is on one side of the line, they're going to block down. On the other side of the line, they're going to pull some linemen across the line. And I think that just simplifies the things. It gives linemen great angles. It allows them to reduce what they have to learn, reduce what they have to do. When you run zone, it's 2 for 2, and there's a lot of cognitive thinking going into it. These guys need to get physical. They need to get off the ball. They need to have simple rules. But yeah, I think they could do that as opposed to going from gap to zone. You can go from zone to gap, especially at that level. But they have to get back to creating an identity. I've said it for weeks, and it's showing its head right now. They have to get back to physically running the football.
I would like to see them put extra linemen in. Are you against that? It worked against the Jaguars, and I know at some point in time, you got to move people. They are not moving defensive lines off the line of scrimmage, and that's bad for an offense no matter what you're running.
Well, the thing is, and it's funny because we all kind of have the same thoughts regardless of what level you are. But when you run angle, so if you look at like a high school and they have small offensive linemen, they like to use angle blocks and, run midline veer where you're leaving guys unblocked and you're trying to do different things. The Browns' mentality with those big offensive line is get off the ball and double team. Well, the double teams aren't working real right now. They're not getting a lot of vertical displacement. So I think down blocking and creating good angles for him and knowing who you block without having a 2 for 2 where we're going to chip off depending on where the linebacker goes. Just give these guys simple rules, have them get off the ball, and have them create an identity, have them create some pace, have them create some confidence. Right now, they're not moving anybody. Those guys are getting handled inside. Pass protection's an issue. Blitz is an issue. There are so many things that are going wrong right now. Running the ball can fix a lot of that just by simply slowing everybody down.
Is that kind of the baseline for how you think you fix it? Find a way to run the ball, and running the ball shortens the game. It gives your defense a little bit of rest. Those kind of things?
Well, it's funny. It's not the end all be all, right? You can't just run the ball and everything's okay. But what it does is it gives you a lot of advantages, right? So if you can be successful with the run game, you can have good down and distance. You can have manageable second, third downs. You can prevent the defense from pinning their ears back and rushing the ball, rushing the passer. Maybe get under center a little bit more so there's more run pass option. Maybe eliminate some of the run pass options and they're just automatic runs so those linemen know they're running the ball. There's a lot of things that can happen with running the ball. It creates confidence and creates pace. It creates tempo. It gives a play caller confidence in what he can call run or pass. Right now, it's just such a reach because it's always a passing situation because they can get nothing out of the run game. They average, if you take away the 25-yard run and the 16-yard run, they're averaging about 3.4 a run. It's just not going to get it done at the NFL level. So I don't think it fixes it all, but it's definitely a start. Physicality is definitely a start for these guys.
All right, this from CBSSports.com, Week 5 grades. For the Browns, they grade them an F. It might be time for the Browns to blow everything up and start over. This team seems to hit a new low every week, and in Washington, it hit rock bottom. We haven't even talked about the start of that game. The criticism the first few weeks was, well, after the first scripted plays, the offense can't do anything. Well, the scripted plays kind of went away against the Commanders. I don't know about blowing it all up. The roster, I think, is too good for that. But you got to find a way to do something different. I mean, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that's textbook insanity.
Yeah, something, it's funny there. I don't think blowing it up is the answer. And I never think that's the answer. I don't think firing people is the answer midseason. I don't think any of that, because remember, when you do that and you bring in a new voice or you bring in new things, that means there's going to be a learning curve. That means everybody has to learn new language and new verbiage and new blocking, all that stuff changes. And you have a new mentality, a new philosophy. So I don't think blowing it all up is necessarily the answer. But yes, you have to adjust and you have to find a way to move the football. You have to find a way, more than the scheme itself. They don't have real good body language. They have to control what they can control. They have to have better body language. The defense, they don't need to celebrate after every play. They got to get back in the huddle. They're flying around, though, and I appreciate that out of the defense. But they just got to kind of, fight through it and get it together and do it together. Because right now, everybody's against them, and the only people that think they can do it are in that locker room. That's the only people that matter. And I used to say that to our guys all the time when we were struggling. You're either going to prove everybody right or everybody wrong. And right now, everybody doesn't think you're very good. So you have two choices. And I think the Browns are going to, fight and get better. But they have some things they need to fix that are not just surface level things. Pass protection, run game, stopping the run. Those are things that are foundational issues that they have to fix immediately.
So this is the most drops this season according to PFF. Number one is Alan Lazard for the Jets. Dontavian Wicks, Amari Cooper, and Darius Slayton second with 5. Cooper should never be on a list with those guys. Those are younger and middle-of-the-road kind of receivers. Cooper's an elite receiver who just has not played well.
Well, and for the first time in his career, and I understand his frustration, people have said to me for the last 3 weeks, he's a pro and he should just get over it. Well, when you've been really, really good for 2 years and he has been outstanding for 2 years and then they put you on the block, it's hurtful. And I don't care when anybody says it's human nature. He's a human being, and it's hurtful. Now, does he have to get over it? Yes, he does. And he has to be a pro, and he wants to get another contract and all that kind of stuff. But that was something that really, really probably hurt him more than people think. But now he has bad body language, and he had that whole offense and that whole scheme, everything that's going on right now offensively. The leaders aren't doing a very good job of having good body language. And when things go bad, it's easy to lead when things are going well. These guys got to pick it up right now when things are going bad. They're the only ones that think they can do this because everybody else thinks they can't. So they got to pick each other up. Amari Cooper is one of those guys. He's got to improve his body language and improve how he looks, whether he's frustrated or not, to make this offense go. He's one of the key pieces.
All right, so how bad is it? This will put it in perspective. This from Darryl Ryder, Browns beat reporter. 2016, 1-15 Browns averaged 16.5 points per game. The 2017 0-16 Browns averaged 14.625 points per game. In the first 5 games, the Browns this year have averaged less than both of them, 14.4 points per game. And that kind of was to the point of how much of a mess this offense looks. If you remember, those were not good offenses.
Well, I think that, for me, so if I'm going in today and I'm saying, what can we do better? Well, I think first thing they got to understand is that everybody has their hand in this pot right now. So Deshaun Watson as a quarterback, he absolutely deserves the most to blame. And that's the nature of quarterbacks. And I think all quarterbacks know that. Kevin Stefanski, everything rolls downhill at him. He tried to do the right thing with Dorsey and Vrabel and all these guys. Now it's backfiring a little bit on him and everybody's jumping ship. So what they have to do is they have to realize everybody has a hand in this and everybody's got to fix what they do. If it's better quarterback play, schemes, whatever they're doing, they all have a hand in it. And it's not just Deshaun Watson. Watson's got to do a better job of accepting the blame, whether it's his or not. Kevin does a pretty good job of that and kind of just fix it and kind of not worry what people are saying. Don't listen and kind of fix it. But yeah, it's a mess on every level. And it's not just him. It's not just play calling. It is a little bit of everything. And everybody's got to fix what they do and kind of do their job first, and then it'll come together a little bit.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I. Going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
The quarterback that Washington has is the quarterback that the Browns thought they were going to have with Deshaun Watson, but it's never going to happen because those days are over for him. Our team looks slow and old. They're always hurt. There's injuries across the board. It's really disappointing. I think it's a time for some kind of a massive change to right the ship. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Lance, you've said you don't think it's time for that yet. It's getting close. I'm not going to disagree that you don't want to do that right now and maybe not in midseason, but you have to stop going from a team that makes the playoffs one year to one that doesn't. You need to become a consistent playoff team, and that's what I thought this year was about. It's not looking like that right now.
Well, they're going to have to look at everything, right? So, with that caller, I agree with one thing. There's something going on with how the Browns strength and conditioning and how they practice and things like that. So they're going to have to take a look at that because the Browns are getting way too many injuries at every level on both sides of the ball. That I agree with. So they have to figure out a way to stay healthy. Jaden Daniels is a special talent. Now, he also has some really good receivers that are making some plays for him. He also, I think Cliff Kingsbury is doing a great job of early on in the game getting him some short passes with some minimal reads, getting the ball out of his hands. He's doing a great job of getting extending plays like he did on that long play to McLaren. So there's a lot that goes into making a quarterback play well. Deshaun Watson, he may not be the quarterback you win because of anymore. And that's okay. And people don't like to hear that from me, but I really believe that, you can win with Deshaun Watson. Not because of him, but that's why you have the roster you do. Mahomes is a guy you win with. Their roster is not very good right now for him, and he'll still win because he's that good. There are very few guys like that. So though he's not playing at a high level, they're invested, and I think they're going to stick with him. He's got to play better, but the people around him have to play better as well, and they have to coach better around him, and they have to figure out maybe they need to change. And, instead of changing the script, change how you practice. Get more physical in practice. Get more physical at training camp. Be in the weight room, maybe stress more heavy weights, whatever it may be. They need to adjust this entire program because they're getting hurt too much. They're not running the ball. They've lost some physicality. So there's a lot that goes into this. I do not think blowing it up is the answer. I never think that's the answer. I understand why it's done. I just don't think it's the answer right now. I think they need to try to fix it. Make these guys coach, make these guys play, and go fix it.
So this is from ESPN, NFL Week 5, overreactions. Should Jameis Winston be the starting quarterback next week for the Cleveland Browns? Their verdict? Not an overreaction. Winston might not make a difference, but sometimes a change like this, particularly when everyone knows how much the team is invested in the quarterback, can get people's attention and spark something. I'm not against Jameis Winston. Once you go down the road of replacing Deshaun Watson, I don't know that you can come back from that. I don't think you can set him down, bench him for a week or two. I just don't think that. I don't think that works in this instance.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have that kind of personality where he's okay with that and going to bounce back. Now, I will say this. He is, he's been hit. He's on pace to be knocked down over 200 times this year. He's been hit just relentlessly, sacked 26 times. And I'm not justifying his play, but I have been hit like that, and I couldn't imagine it at his level because, obviously I didn't play at that level. But when you get hit like that, it does start to affect your psyche. It does start to affect how you read things and your eyes staying up and all that kind of stuff. So, again, he's played poorly and he's missed some openings. But they also have to protect him better and catch the ball better and run the ball better. What's happening to the Browns right now, in my opinion, is why it's such a great team game and why it kind of resembles life so much, because everybody has to do it right or it looks like this. And the Browns, a lot of times on offense, they have 4 or 5, 6 guys doing it right and 3 or 4 guys not doing it right. And that's all it takes to make a play just look terrible. So, I don't think starting, Jameis Winston. I like Jameis Winston a lot. But if you're invested in a guy and you still think Watson's your guy, then you can't do it. Now, if you think Watson's not your guy, then maybe it's something you do, but that's only something they know. But again, completely agree with you. That is the start of blowing it up. If you just sit Deshaun Watson, you are saying we are going in another direction without a lot of draft capital, without a lot of depth because of the trade for Watson. So this is something they really have to think about, no question.
All right, Kevin Stefanski was asked about the possibility of changing the starting quarterback.
Again, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, Mary Kay. I have to coach better. As offensive coaches, we have to coach better. As players, we have to play better. Deshaun can play better. He will play better. He's had some obviously good moments, and then there's times that we have to play better around him. But he's committed to getting better. We're committed as an offense to putting our guys in position to succeed. This is not a one-person type of deal. When we're playing how we're playing on offense, we need everybody to do their job and do their job better. And I look at myself and how I can do that. But I believe in Deshaun. I believe in what he brings to this offense, and I believe he will play better.
And again, there's been spots. Yesterday, he didn't play as well as he did. He's been inconsistent to mediocre, is how I would describe him, relative to an NFL quarterback.
Well, I'll say this when I hear that. So I've been on both ends of this, and unfortunately, I've been a bad play caller many times in my life. And when Kevin says that, it says two things to me. One is it can either go one way or the other. If they're going into a staff meeting and they're going into a team meeting, and his players truly believe that they can fix it, then they can fix it and they can get better, and that'll show their investment in practice and what they believe. If they don't really believe it and there's a locker room that's divided, then this is a problem, because it won't get fixed. Because every time something goes wrong, you're going to say, well, we should have Jameson, or we should do this, or Dorsey should be calling plays. If everybody's on the same page and everybody feels like Kevin is saying in terms of, I got to coach better, we got to play better, he has to play better, then they can fix it. If he's just saying it, you're going to see that in the weeks coming forward where it's just words then. And I've been on both. I've done that with a lot of my teams where I've said it and it hasn't worked, and I've said it and it's worked. And it's all, do they believe in each other, coaches and players? We're going to find out quickly.
All right. This is to your point a little bit earlier. Take a look. Deshaun Watson has been sacked on 24.1% of his dropbacks. So almost 1 out of every 4 times he drops back against the blitz, he's been sacked. It's highest rate in the league. League average is 9.5, so more than double the league average. Again, it's another level to it. They're not protecting him. They're not making adjustments to what the defense is doing relative to the rush.
Well, so I'm breaking down the sacks right now. So there's 7 sacks. Really, there was 6 because one was at the line of scrimmage. But they're struggling, so they're losing one-on-one matchups. Everybody says they're the blitz. They did get beat a couple times on the cross blitz. Well, the blitz, they had picked it up, and for some reason, the one time Posick, it was a 4-man rush, and Posick and Zinter miss. And then they brought Lufu, who's 240 pounds, and Ford tried to step up, and he did a good job of putting his face in there. He's just too little, and he got pushed back into it. So it's a matter of, and then there's one time where it was down on the goal line, and they took a 7-step drop or a 5-step drop. It just held on to it too long. So it's scheme. It's losing one-on-one battles. It's not having hot routes built in. There is so much that goes into this sack, this getting hit. He's part of it, holding on to it, but there's scheme. There's losing one-on-one battles. There's awful play. There's so much that goes into it. He's part of it, but he's not the whole reason. And they got to figure that out quickly, or he's not going to make it. He's getting given 6 to 8 sacks a game, but he's getting hit 11, 17, 8. You can't get hit like that in the NFL and expect to play 17 weeks. So they have a lot to do. Ford's got to be able to step up, or they need to change protection so Ford's not picking up a big, huge linebacker, or is in the game because he can't pick up a linebacker. It's got to be a bigger body. So those are all scheme things, along with effort, along with technique, along with skill, that go into protecting the passer.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, film analysis, video breakdown from Lance on that game Sunday, the loss to the Commanders. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Time for a film breakdown, video analysis of the loss yesterday to the Commanders. Lance, it was one of the most disappointing, and in a season of disappointments, that might be one of the more disappointing performances that we've had.
Well, it's funny. Everybody talks about Watson, Cooper, secondary, all kinds of stuff. For me, football always starts up front. And the reason the Browns have had success the last 2 years is they've been really good on both sides of the line, right? The offensive line, defensive line. Right now, those guys aren't playing at a high level. Now, there's been injury, especially in the offensive line, but there's also been a lack of play and lack of anchoring in and lack of, doing the things you need to do as a defensive lineman and as an offensive lineman to make yourself successful. The offensive line, for me, is the major concern on the offense. I understand Deshaun Watson. I understand Cooper. I understand all of that. But until that offensive line plays better, none of those other guys will improve. That's where it starts. It's got to get better up front on both sides of the ball.
All right, so let's take a look at a couple of the clips that you've taken. And along those lines, offensive line play and quarterback. So take us through this and what you see.
The first one here, you're going to see just a four-man rush, and for some reason, Zinter just gets beat, and Posick doesn't help. Next one, you're going to get a six-man rush, and you're going to watch the tailback. He's going to get flown right back into the quarterback. Now, that's not a lack of effort. That's just a lack of size. So, again, you're going to see the guy standing up. He beats Zinter inside and then Posick. So, it's just a four-man rush. And remember, when it's just a four-man rush, there's 7 guys covering. Then it's just a really good pickup on the end zone copy. You're going to see everybody's picked up. Ford does a great job. He just gets run over. So, again, the other thing that you want to see is that when you look at the second clip here, is that it's a 6-man pressure, and where are the ability to get rid of the ball quickly? There are none. So if you look right there, there's no one within 5 yards. So if there's a 6-man pressure, there has to be a hot built in. So in these couple plays, you see how it's everybody. You see how they lost one-on-one matchups. You see how Watson doesn't get rid of the ball and holds it too long. You're going to see how they bring a 6-man pressure and they just lose a one-on-one battle. Ford getting beat, I don't mind that getting beat at all. He stuck his nose in there the best he could. He got run over by a 240-pound linebacker. So you see all the things that need to go right in pass protection. Then you got to have some built-in hots so Watson can get rid of it. This is a total mess on so many levels, and this is what they got to fix moving forward.
Yeah, and the other thing is when you look at Ford in there, he's kind of upright, and you're going to lose that with a linebacker most of the time in the NFL. But I'm with you. That's again, it's not one thing with the pass protection. Watson looks bad on that. It's not like he held the ball. They didn't hold blocks long enough for him to get to the progression that he needed to.
Well, if you go back at that second clip where Ford really struggles, if you're going to be an undersized back, one of the things you can do is you can move up on the line of scrimmage. So you've seen the Browns do that now with their backs when they're chipping on the ends, where if you're going to get, that Louisville is 236 pounds. He's a big guy, 6'3", 240, right? So what you have to do is you have to eliminate the collision space, right? So if 2 cars are going to run into each other, you want them as close as they can be to limit the damage. And that's what you have to do as a back. So there's a simple scheme that I've seen at every level. I used to do all the times when I had a little running back. If you know they're coming with a 6-man pressure, then move that guy up so that linebacker doesn't have such a running start at him. And that'll eliminate some of that size issue. So there's certain things they can do, certain things they are doing. They are trying to help the ends. they're not sitting doing nothing. They're not executing at a high level right now either.
So the second one on these, the points lost to the Commanders, and this one's been a recurring one. Inability to stop the run. What do you see here?
So there's two things that you have here, right? So, we're talking about the next, we talk about mistakes, but this is a gap scheme, and they're going to give up some gap schemes. So the first touchdown Robinson scored, it was on a crunch, which is a trap and a wham all at once. And they're going to see that a ton with out of the Ravens, and it's just the idea. This is a counter pool. So when you see it again, you're going to see the left guard and left tackle. Left guard's going to kick out, tackle gets up through. And when you are a gap penetrating team, you've got to tackle in the secondary, and you've got to blow up these pullers. So the guys inside got to do a better job of getting upfield so these pullers don't get such a running start. Again, it's team defense. So if you're going to be in this gap penetrating defense, everybody's got to do their job. Everybody's got to penetrate their gap, or these big linemen get up on the second level and they cause issues. So this is a gap scheme. This is something I think the Browns should do. It's block down, kick out, very easy to run, very easy to teach, and you get these guys in space. But this is one of the things the Browns have really struggled with, is this gap schemes with people kicking them out.
All right, and you can be sure it's not going to get any easier on the ground coming up. You've got Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles coming. Number 3 on this, repeated mistakes on defense. Take us through what you see here.
So first thing you're going to get is you're going to get the big play to McLaurin. Now, the reason this is a big play is because they got to be in unison. First of all, you're going to miss. They bring 6. You got to stay connected. But you're not thinking if you're bringing 6 that you're going to have to cover this long. So, again, they're both wrong. Here it is. They run a wham. They run a wham and a trap. It's called a crunch. So they don't tackle. So, again, you get a 6-man pressure. Delpit comes free. They don't make the play. Now these DBs are all in 0 coverage because they brought 6. There's only 5 left to cover 5. So these DBs now have to cover. So again, they got an 8-man box. They do a good job of getting upfield. Delpit's free. He's got to make that tackle. Usually Delpit has been making that tackle. So you see the idea that the front has to match with the back. And the linemen have to make sure they get home so the DBs don't have to cover. I understand Ward got beat here, but that's a long time to cover. This is the tackle Delpit usually makes. These are things that the Browns did last year as a defense that they're not doing very well, and things that they can improve on. So when Kevin Stefanski says we need to get better as a team, this is what he's talking about. Helping each other. This is more, to me, this is more on not getting home with a 6-man pressure and allowing him to get out of the pocket, and this is a missed tackle. So those are things they can fix moving forward.
Yeah, the missed tackling, it's been a problem. The Raiders game particularly, it showed up, and I think it showed up again against the Commanders.
Well, if you see here, so when they go back to when you see this Robinson throw here, when you're in man coverage, you are really, the front 7 has to tackle because DBs are going to be running with motion. So when you see this next play, you're going to see Greg Newsome is going to run across in coverage, so that means there's no run support. Denzel Ward, he gets blocked by McCaffrey, but he's also covering McCaffrey. So if he's in zone, he can have his eyes more in the backfield. These guys are in man, so when McCaffrey releases, I've heard a lot of people say, what does Ward need to do here? Well, there's not a lot of Ward can do in that situation. So if you look, you're going to see Ward at the bottom of the screen get blocked. He's not sure if McCaffrey's going to run a route or if he's going to block him because he's in man coverage. Then you play zone and you get beat on some zone routes. So the key is they have to tackle in space, and they have to make sure that when they pressure, they get home and they tackle. That's what they did well last year.
When you look at the defense, how correctable are some of the issues that the defense is having? Because it hasn't played quite as well as it was expected to, very honestly.
Well, again, you're going to see, I'm a big believer in complementary football. So they've been put into situations where they have to play picture perfect. They have not played as well as they did last year, but last year they were outstanding. They're still a good defense right now. They're not great. The way they get great is to handle the things they can handle, control the controllables, get lined up, tackle in space, make sure you don't leave people uncovered, make sure that I liked Ward going with McLaurin easy. Then McLaurin is on some other guys. Make sure that Ward stays with the best guys. Make sure you're not making Emerson cover jittery guys. So controlling the things they can control, tackling in space, getting lined up, not jumping off sides, making sure, taking care of the things you can take care of, because you're not always going to play great. But more importantly than the defense, the offense has to play better, and they have to continue to play good special teams. Football is a complementary game. And right now, those guys are pressing a little bit on defense, in my opinion, because they have to play perfect for them to have a chance. They're never going to play perfect. You know, when you look at when the Browns were successful last year, it's when they're up a little bit and those guys can turn it loose. This defense is going to give up some plays. You're counting on your offense to make some as well.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Chef Zay straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s, $10 each. 10 times multipliers, 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. I am totally and utterly disgusted in this organization. It is insane to me how this team can go from a playoff team last season to this garbage that they're trotting out every single week. I'm watching a rookie QB eating popcorn and drinking Kool-Aid on the sideline entering the fourth quarter because he just got done destroying this defense. I don't know who's at blame here. Is it Stefanski? Is it Watson? I'm blaming everybody. I used to defend both of them. I can no longer defend them. Stefanski's play calling and himself need to go. I don't mean to sound extreme or knee-jerk reaction, but this is a complete mess.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Xavier Crocker. Chef Zay from the CrocPot podcast also writes for CrocPotCLE.com. Chef Zay, it's been bad enough that everybody, front office, and I've defended everybody as well. Everybody has a hand in this one in my mind.
Everybody from the top to the very top, which is Jimmy and D. Haslam, to Paul Thibodeau, to Andrew Berry, to Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff that he's hired, all the way down to the players. I'm sure there's probably even some equipment staff that have some blame in this, I guess. It's been that type of nightmare. You know, it is the Halloween season. We're living a nightmare on Lou Groza Boulevard right now. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and, you know, this was the year, in my mind, where you needed to take this from a team that makes the playoff one year, misses the playoff, makes the playoffs, misses the playoffs. You need to find some consistency. So the extensions that went out to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they made a couple of years in the playoffs. A lot of people will tell you it is more difficult to get from mediocre to elite than from terrible to mediocre. And right now the Browns are, I mean, they're doing things bad football teams do, so they're mediocre right now.
I don't even know if we can consider ourselves mediocre. I think our defense has been the only thing that's really been kind of, you know, keeping this thing together, even though, you know, at times they don't look the best. But I don't know. We need something. We need some type of change. You know, you mentioned the mediocrity. I just pulled it up and I looked back at all the way to 2019 when Kevin Stefanski was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. He always had a 16th ranked offense, and he's pretty much held patent to that. We've been anywhere from, at best, I think we were 13th, and that was with the Jacoby Brissett season. And since then, we've been either 16th, 18th, 16th, and the Vikings have continuously found ways to be above us in the offense, where he's came from. So I'm starting to question the scheme. I know what Kevin Stefanski has a good offensive mind, but we need something to take us over the hump because obviously it's not working anymore.
Yeah, and you know the quarterback and the trade surely didn't work out. This is from NFL ESPN.com. NFL Week 5 questions and takeaways. Have the Browns dug themselves into an insurmountable hole? Browns' revamped offense has flopped with no signs of identity or cohesiveness. Browns haven't scored more than 18 points in a game. Defense resembles nothing like the unit that dominated opponents in 2023. Through 5 games, there are few redeemable qualities that inspire confidence in this Browns team. That's spot on. I mean, they're 1-4. So is the season over? No. But I can't tell you that they're going to string 2 quarters of good football together, much less 4 or 5 games.
We were looking at the schedule earlier today, me and my buddy Max Loeb on our Land podcast, and I'm like, bro, where can we find 4 wins? We just last week we were sitting here saying that we could potentially string together a few wins if we found a way to sneak one out of DC. And not only did you not sneak one out of DC, you got ran out of DC to a point where people shouldn't even got on planes. So it's definitely crazy to sit here and looking at the schedule. I mean, you're looking at December, like maybe Denver's turning things around. Like, where's the wins coming from? I don't know. Hopefully something can happen in Philly this week, because I tell you what, I'm going to be one unhappy camper if we come back off of this road trip and Nick Chubb's first game is with us at 1-6 or 1-5 or whatever the record could potentially be.
So eye-popping stat, and this one is pretty ridiculous. Browns, who entered Week 5 the worst third down offense in the NFL, failed to convert all 12 of their third down attempts. Failed to convert all 12 of their third down attempts with Deshaun Watson. This was against Commanders' defense that entered the game with the 3rd worst EPA in the league. So right there, they can't stay on the field. That's penalties. Anything that you would say a bad football team is doing or does, your Cleveland Browns in 2024 is doing that.
And isn't it funny, because last year that was the complete opposite. Somehow we found ways to win, and now it's like the only thing we can do is find ways to lose. That third down stat drives me crazy, because we've been bad on third down every game this year. And I went back and watched some of my third down plays from this past week. And there's one in particular that really drove me through a wall that forced me to look at the other third down plays. And that was right at the 2-minute mark, 3rd and 5. You think you would run something quick for your receivers to get the ball out, especially when you see that they're going to blitz you. And yet all of our guys the middle of the field's completely wide open, and everyone's pushed out and way past the first down marker. Why are we designing runs so far past the first down marker when we just need 5 yards? I don't understand it. We don't run the ball well on first down, so we're always behind the chains. I saw a stat. It was late into the game where the Browns had 0 first down rushes to the Commanders' 7 first down rushes. So you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball there. I mean, if we can't establish any run game, we can't establish a 3rd and manageable, which is why we've been averaging 3rd and 8 every game of the year. So something's got to change. I don't know what it is. I really wish I could tell you, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I think there's so many layers to what needs to change. Just one thing isn't going to make the difference that it needs to. Chef Zay and I can step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Chef Zay from the CrocPot podcast, also writes for CrocPotCLE.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. I'm going to sum this up in one word, brother. Humiliated. One more thing. Do you think Stefanski's lost the locker room, or they don't want to play with Deshaun? I think it's about time to give Jameis Winston the ball and let's see what he can do. You'll see 110% improvement. All right, love you, brother. You and the family be good. See.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Chef Zay, I don't see that Kevin Stefanski has lost the locker room. I don't think that the players dislike playing for Deshaun Watson, but I don't have any answer. The one thing I will say, once you go from Deshaun Watson to Jameis Winston, you can't go back. That's a burn the village, take the hit. It's a disaster move.
And that's why I think they're trying to hold it as long as they can, because they've been down this road before with Baker Mayfield. They botched one situation already, and I think they're not trying to go down that same path. And you talk about, has Stefanski lost the locker room, or do the players not want to play for Deshaun? You know, I'm a huge people person guy. I love reading body language. I love studying that aspect of it. And I can't get a feel. I cannot get a true feel, because on one side of the ball, which is weird that you got players on the defense that still go above and beyond to say nothing but, you know, great things about Deshaun. Yeah, Amari Cooper's still saying some of the things, but then the play on the field doesn't translate to it. You know, I didn't really want to talk about it much a few weeks ago when I first noticed it, but now maybe, you know, we're sitting here, we're trying to figure out anything that we can convince ourselves could be the problem. You know, you look back at that Jacksonville Jaguar game, do yourself a favor and watch that Deshaun Watson touchdown where he ran it in the end zone, and just look at the offensive lineman and look at how many people go over to him. I've never in my life seen a quarterback running for a touchdown and not be surrounded by his offensive linemen, and you don't get that sense. So do they want to play for Deshaun? I don't know. At this point, it's fair to ask, but I have no sense in what they want at this point, because I just don't understand how overnight this thing goes from the best to the worst, just like that.
Yeah, and again, there are no easy answers. If the answers were there, they'd probably have them. So we're gonna have to see. But I understand the thought behind Jameis Winston. I think he has a strong arm. I think he'd throw the ball downfield. But that is a move that it's like the ketchup. You can't put it back in the bottle once it's out. It's done. This is interesting as well. So this is Brown's report card through 5 games, Dog Pound Daily. Offense, they give them an F. Points per game, 15.8, which is 30th. Some of those are defensive points, remember. Rushing yards per game, 96.6, 27th. Passing yards, 142.8, 30th. Yards per game overall, 239.4, which is dead last. This offense, and I was a guy that said, build the offense around Deshaun, do what it's not working. Whatever you're doing ain't working. It's nothing. It does not even resemble a college-type offense the way it's being run. There's no cohesion. I have no idea what they're trying to do week to week. Couldn't tell you.
You know, I'm a guy that usually can find words. I've been at such a loss for words these past few days, just because you couldn't tell. I would have lost my hair. I would have lost my money. I would have bet the most ridiculous amounts of things that if you told me at the beginning of the year, 5 weeks through the season, we would be 1-4 and we have failed to put up more than 18 points. And if you look back at some of those games, those points were at the hands of the defense, like you said. And then you look at some of the context and even deeper into it, you know, you get a turnover and you drive down to the 2-yard line and you think you're going to come away with 7 and somehow you come away with 3. I don't know. The offense, F is doing it a little. It's being a little courteous, honestly. It's worse than an F. So I'm right there with them on that as far as the offense goes.
Yeah, it's it's the most disappointing unit in football. You could argue that, but I would argue back. Most disappointing unit in football is the Browns offense.
You know, it's funny because, again, I was talking to Max about this, and if I never would have known that if you have 2 out of the 3 facets of the game, and we know Kevin Stefanski loves to say defense, offense, special teams, 2 out of those 3 are elite. You have one of the best kickers in the league. You have one of the best punters in the league, and that's undeniable. Corey Bojorquez has probably been one of the, if not the best player on our team behind Myles Garrett and JOK. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they can't stay off the field because your offense can't move. I think if the offense was any serviceable, par at best, that this defense would be better than what we've seen. So to have 2 out of the 3 facets of the game that you need and still be this bad due to the offense, it blows my mind.
All right, before I let you go, defense, same thing. They say C-, points allowed, 24.2, 24th. Rushing yards allowed, 141.6, 25th. That's troubling. Passing yards allowed, 184.4, 8th. Total yards, 326, that's 12th. An interception, 4 forced fumbles. the defense hasn't been as good as I thought it would be. To your point, the offense has been so bad it looks probably worse than it does. Concerning thing is they're getting run all over and they're missing tackles. Those are things, you got to stop that. This defense is too good to be missing as many tackles and getting run over like they are.
Did you have PTSD of Joe Woods' defense? Because all throughout it, I'm watching it. They had the one play where they missed 4 tackles on one play. I'm like, is Jim Schwartz out here, or is Joe Woods out here coaching this team or something? Because what happened to our attacking ability? But, you know, it's really hard to sit here and knock them, just knowing that you look at the play-by-play chart on every game, and they're getting sent out there in under 2 minutes. I mean, it's a 3-play 4-yard drive, 3-play minus 10 or 2-yard drive, 5 plays 18-yard drives, 10 plays 7-yard drives. Like, you do that, eventually this defense is going to wear out. Where the concern comes in for me is they go hand in hand. Number one, we aren't getting any pressure on our front four. We continuously have to blitz in order to create any type of pressure. And then that goes into our secondary. You know, Martin Emerson has given us no reason to think that he was going to be this bad. I have faith that he'll bounce back, but it is pretty concerning to see him have, you know, multiple weeks in a row where he looks like one of the worst players on the field. So I'm a little concerned there, but the defense is the one thing that I'm going to ride until the wheels fall off and are on the ground.
Chef Zay, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Chef Zay.
Ryan, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, Chef Zay, Xavier Crockett, make sure you check him out. The CrocPot podcast writes for CrocPotCLE.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.